He ruled Iran for 36 years, now he's dead. The full story of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Welcome to this deep dive into the life of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who ruled Iran for 36 years as its supreme leader. From a modest upbringing in the holy city of Mashhad, through revolution, war, and nuclear crisis, to his death in US-Israeli strikes on February 28, 2026. This is the full story of one of the most powerful and controversial figures in the modern Middle East. Ali Khamenei was born on April 19, 1939, in Mashhad, Iran, one of the holiest cities in Shia Islam, home to the sacred Imam Reza Shrine. He was the second son of 8 children. His father was an Islamic scholar, but the family was desperately poor. They lived in a one-room house, with a gloomy basement, and sometimes had nothing but bread and raisins for supper. Young Ali entered the seminary at just 11 years old. He studied under the greatest Islamic scholars of his time in Mashhad, then traveled to Najaf, in Iraq, and eventually to the holy city of Qom, where he met the man who would change his life forever, Ayatollah Khamenei. From 1963, Khamenei threw himself into the growing movement against the Shah of Iran. The Shah was a secular monarch backed by the United States and Britain who was rapidly modernizing Iran, but in ways that many religious Iranians saw as anti-Islamic and oppressive. Khamenei was arrested and tortured multiple times by Savak, the Shah's feared secret police. His friend and mentor Khomeini was exiled in 1964, first to Turkey, then Iraq, and finally France. But Khamenei maintained underground contact throughout. In 1978, mass protests erupted across Iran. By February 1979, the Shah fled the country and Khomeini returned in triumph. The Islamic Revolution had succeeded, and Khamenei was at the heart of it. After the revolution, Khamenei rose rapidly through the ranks of the new Islamic Republic. He was appointed to the Revolutionary Council by Khomeini himself. He served as Deputy Minister of Defense, supervised the military, and was elected to parliament representing Tehran. Then, in June 1981, while giving a sermon at a mosque, a bomb hidden inside a tape recorder exploded next to him. The assassination attempt, carried out by the MEK opposition group, left his right arm permanently paralyzed. But it also made him a living symbol of revolutionary sacrifice and accelerated his rise to power. Just months after the assassination attempt, Khamenei was elected president of Iran in October 1981. His presidency was consumed by one of the deadliest conflicts of the 20th century, the Iran-Iraq War. From 1980 to 1988, Iran fought Saddam Hussein's Iraq in a grinding, devastating conflict that killed over 1 million people. Chemical weapons were used. Child soldiers were sent to clear minefields. It was a war of unimaginable horror. Khamenei oversaw the government's war effort alongside Khomeini, and was re-elected in 1985, serving through the war's end and into Khomeini's final years. On June 3, 1989, Ayatollah Khamenei died, and everything changed. Khamenei was not the obvious successor. He lacked the religious rank of Grand Ayatollah, which the constitution required for the supreme leader. But in a dramatic political move, the constitution was amended to remove that requirement. The Assembly of Experts voted Khamenei in with 60 of 64 votes. A mid-ranking cleric, who had never completed his advanced religious studies, had become the most powerful man in Iran. He would hold that power for 36 years. Over the next 3 decades, Khamenei consolidated near-absolute authority. He transformed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, into the most powerful military, economic, and political force in Iran. The IRGC controlled vast business empires, commanded Iran's proxy forces across the Middle East, and answered directly to the supreme leader. Khamenei used the Guardian Council to vet and disqualify political candidates, effectively controlling every election. He tightened control over the press, the internet, and all media, and he crushed every reform movement that dared to challenge his authority. The tension between reformists and hardliners defined Iran's politics for decades. In 1997, reformist Mohammad Khatami won the presidency in a landslide, promising social openness and dialogue with the West. Khamenei blocked his reforms at every turn. In 2005, hardliner Mahmoud Ahmadinejad was elected, a president far more aligned with Khamenei's vision. Iran accelerated its nuclear program and took a defiant stance toward the world. Then in 2009, Ahmadinejad's disputed re-election triggered the Green Movement. Millions of Iranians took to the streets in the largest protests since the revolution. Khamenei declared the results divine, and unleashed a brutal crackdown that imprisoned thousands and killed dozens. Iran's nuclear program became one of the defining issues of global politics. In 2002, the world discovered that Iran had been secretly building nuclear facilities. Years of crippling sanctions followed from the United Nations, the United States, and the European Union. Iran's economy suffered enormously. In 2015, Khamenei approved the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the nuclear deal, which limited Iran's uranium enrichment in exchange for sanctions relief. It was seen as a historic breakthrough. But, in 2018, President Donald Trump withdrew the United States from the deal and reimposed maximum pressure sanctions. Iran responded by resuming enrichment, and the deal effectively collapsed. Under Khamenei's direction, Iran built what became known as the Axis of Resistance, a network of proxy forces stretching across the entire Middle East. Hezbollah in Lebanon became Iran's most powerful proxy, a state within a state with tens of thousands of rockets aimed at Israel. Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza were funded and armed by Iran. The Houthis in Yemen fought a Saudi-led coalition and later attacked shipping in the Red Sea, and Shia militias in Iraq and Syria expanded Iranian influence and helped keep the Assad regime in power during Syria's civil war. This proxy network gave Iran the ability to threaten Israel and American interests across the region, without ever firing a shot directly. On January 3, 2020, a U.S. drone strike at Baghdad International Airport killed General Qasem Soleimani, the commander of the IRGC's elite Quds force and Khamenei's most trusted military strategist. Soleimani was the architect of Iran's entire proxy war network. Khamenei wept publicly and vowed severe revenge. Millions of Iranians attended the funeral procession, the largest in Iran since Khomeiни's funeral in 1989. Iran retaliated by launching ballistic missiles at U.S. military bases in Iraq. It was a seismic moment that brought the two countries to the brink of all-out war. In September 2022, a 22-year-old woman named Mahsa Amini died in the custody of Iran's morality police, arrested for allegedly wearing her hijab improperly. Her death ignited the largest protests in Iran since the 1979 revolution. Under the rallying cry of "Woman, Life, Freedom," millions took to the streets. Women burned their headscarves. Students occupied universities. The movement spread to every province. Khamenei's response was characteristically ruthless. Security forces killed over 500 protesters and arrested more than 22,000. Khamenei blamed foreign enemies and refused any reform. But the cracks in the regime's legitimacy were deeper than ever. The final years of Khamenei's rule were defined by escalation on every front. In 2024, the Israel-Hamas war triggered the first direct military exchanges between Iran and Israel. In 2025, a 12-day war erupted between the two countries, with U.S. strikes targeting Iran's nuclear facilities. Then, in early 2026, massive protests erupted across Iran once again, and this time the regime responded with a massacre that killed thousands of civilians.
President Trump declared that help was on the way to the Iranian people.
Nuclear talks between Washington and Tehran collapsed, and then, on February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a massive joint military operation. Codenamed Operation Epic Fury by the Pentagon and Roaring Lion by Israel, the strikes hit targets across Iran, including downtown Tehran. On February 28, 2026, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in the joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Tehran. He was 86 years old. Senior IRGC commanders were killed alongside him. Israeli officials said his body was found in the rubble. Iranian state television eventually confirmed his death, calling him a martyr. The government declared 40 days of national mourning, but as news of his death spread, Iranians poured into the streets, not just in grief, but in celebration. Videos showed people cheering and dancing in cities across Iran, even as security forces opened fire on some of the crowds. Iran vowed revenge and launched retaliatory strikes on U.S. bases in Israel. The Middle East was plunged into its most dangerous moment in decades. The numbers tell the story of Khamenei's Iran: 36 years as supreme leader, 86 years old at death, 6 major protest movements crushed, proxy wars waged in 4 countries, a nuclear program that reshaped global geopolitics. Khamenei ruled longer than virtually any leader in the modern Middle East. He consolidated more power in the office of supreme leader than even Khomeini held. He built the IRGC into a regional empire, and he crushed every movement for freedom that his own people tried to build. So, what is Khamenei's legacy? To his supporters, he was a martyr, a man who stood firm against American and Israeli aggression for nearly 4 decades. To his critics, he was a despot who turned Iran into a surveillance state, crushed every democratic aspiration of his own people, and left behind a nation more isolated and divided than at any point since the revolution. He took a revolutionary movement built on hope and turned it into a system of repression. He pursued power at every turn, and, in the end, power is what destroyed him. Whether his death marks the end of the Islamic Republic or merely the beginning of a new and even more uncertain chapter, that is the question the world is asking right now. Thank you for watching. If you found this video informative, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to understand what is happening in Iran right now. Drop a comment below. What do you think happens next? We will see you in the next one.